This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Harry Potter, The Recapping. Number 9. Number 9? Number 9? Number 9? Welcome to Unspoiled.
Oh my God, I love you so much.
If you guys don't know what the fuck that joke was, I'm sorry. I just started watching The Simpsons recently, so I didn't know either. But RoShawn is happy, and I'm sure Owen is very proud of me. So,
have you ever actually heard that? It popped up on my fucking Spotify the other day.
No.
The actual song.
Perfume served in a man's hat. How does that go? A plum.
I'll take a single plum floating in perfume served in a man's hat.
Right. And I think that's an actual drink at the Moe's Bar in Universal.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So we'll have to check that out. Also, they have Krusty Burgers and enormous donuts. What are they? Lard Boy?
Lard Boy, yeah.
I can't believe that's what it is.
I was talking to a friend last night at the show, and her family just got back from like their second or third time down there, and she says it's still amazing. Like every time she goes, she never gets tired of Harry Potter World.
Yay!
She's like, "Are you going to go?" And I'm like, "We're trying to plan a thing with the group.
Yep.
Might have to get a little GoFundMe thing happening, but
I'm going to set up a GoFundMe. Everybody listening, just so you know. And those of you who are interested in going, the dates that we had picked out were November 28th. I wanted to stay a little bit longer, but Owen has a hard time getting time off from work. So we're probably only going to be able to do like 5 days. So that would be the day that we got there, would be November 28th. And then we would stay until like that Saturday and leave on Sunday, because the 28th is a Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check here. Yeah. Oh, no. The 28th is a Tuesday. So we would stay until like December 1st. And I'm going to make the reservations actually this week. You're able to make the reservations at the Cabana Bay Resort without paying up front. So you can make the reservations for the dates that you want to go and are allowed to cancel up till 2 weeks before the event. So that's what we're going to do. That way we actually make ourselves go. We're probably not going to be able to fly because that is just too expensive. We're probably going to drive. I would love to fly, but you know.
I have to figure out a savings plan. I have to get started on it now.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Because otherwise, I've got like 3 hypothetical, theoretical savings plans in my head of things I'm supposed to be saving for. Because
there's always something.
I'll just add that to it.
Yep. But yeah, everybody listening, if you are interested in contributing to make sure that this happens and that both RoShawn and I are able to go. I'm going to be posting the link to the GoFundMe. I'll post it at the top of the unspoiledpodcast.com site underneath support the show. And I will also be sharing it on the Facebook page and everything. And it's going to be how we get this done, because both of us have what's the way that you say this? We're income challenged. Or what? I'm trying to think of like what the really diplomatic way of saying we're fucking broke is. But yeah,
I'm cash poor, but then that implies that I'm rich in other ways, which
right.
I'm really not.
I mean, one could say you're rich in friendship, RoShawn.
One could say that.
Not me. One would
say that.
Oh man. So yeah, I'm excited about that though, because I have, like I said, I've been down there before they added this whole other section. And last time I went, I didn't give any shits about The Simpsons. So I always just walked straight through that section.
That is a shame. That is sin and a shame. That offends me deeply.
I would actually walk faster through that section because I found the illustration style of The Simpsons to be so ugly that I just didn't want to look at it. So I would just go faster until I was out of there.
Shut your dirty, filthy mouth.
Yeah.
The Simpsons are beautiful.
Listen, lady, you can say plenty of things, but don't you just straight up lie on my fucking podcast.
I think that they are aesthetically pleasing.
Will you please, will you cosplay when you come as Marge Simpson? I'm sure that we can get your dreads piled in something like spray paint them blue.
There was a fantastic picture of a black family that was cosplayed at The Simpsons, and it was super adorable. They had a little.
I saw that.
Did you see
yes,
that?
Yes, I did.
It was very cute.
It was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Even his little hair had that. He had it buzzed with the zigzags.
Yeah,
it was pretty good. So anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm RoShawn, and I love The Simpsons.
So this is a recap episode without a supercut in it. So RoShawn and I are just going to kind of wing it, which we did last time too, but the supercut adds a certain amount of structure. Once we finish with the final supercut for Deathly Hallows, then we're going to start on the reread.
All right.
Dun, dun, dun. So I'm excited about that.
I'm pretty excited too, actually.
Mm-hmm. I'm really... I'm going to have to look into it and see. I figured we'd do about 5 chapters at a time, which I think is fair, right? For a reread. There might be times when we want to slow it down a little bit. For example, the Snape chapter, getting back into that. But for the first book and the second book, I think that'd be fine. And I had gotten a message. And of course, I'm not prepared with the message up so that I can say who it was who sent it. So I'm looking right now. But I had got a message about the principles of alchemy, which I was not familiar with at all, being used in the structure of the book. What are you laughing at?
I just got your picture of you making that dog pun face. I forgot you sent it because we just ended up talking about so much other stuff. And I opened my phone to open the link for the article because you texted it to me. And I had a message waiting for me in Messenger. I had completely forgot this happened. So I was like, why is she messaging me? And then your face popped up.
I sent RoShawn a picture of myself making the face that dog pun meme makes. I did a pretty solid job imitating it, I think.
Oh, sorry, guys. I didn't mean to squeal in your face like that. I was completely unprepared for that amount of awesomeness. So you'll just have to give me that one.
So it was Melissa Granados sent this to me. It's the kind of thing that, because she explained it and she wrote a really long paragraph about it, but it still wasn't making a lot of sense to me. And it turns out that in the Deathly Hallow lectures, which is a book that Susan sent me, one of my other listeners, there is a more detailed explanation of this. And RoShawn does not have the Deathly Hallows book, but there is a section of it online, hogwartsprofessor.com/literary alchemy via Harry Potter and introduction. And I have to say, I'm reading through this and I'm on the one hand, I get why people subscribe to this theory, but on the other hand, I don't really buy it. And I'm not, I guess part of it is that there are times where it feels like it's inconsistent, the explanations, enough that I'm not sure if what they're using as evidence is really that solid. Like, I tried to find information on whether or not J.K. Rowling confirmed that this was part of the way that she wrote the books. The most that I could find was a quote of hers talking about alchemy in a very general sense and saying that she knew about like the red and white, and that she named Rubus Hagrid and Albus Dumbledore specifically because they mean red and white, and that they were going to be the two father figures to Harry, and that their duality, one being very emotionally available and supportive and nurturing, and the other being much more intellectual and emotionally distant, would be kind of the two flip sides, which the red and white are supposed to represent, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing that I found that actually is her stating that she meant any of this. And so I feel like there comes a point where if you want something to be true, you can kind of make it true. And there are parts of this that seem to me to be stronger than others. And the parts that aren't that strong, it feels like they're picking things that don't really work and saying that it's evidence. So let's get into this, because I'm not familiar with the whole alchemy thing.
Right. I was not familiar with this either. And it's funny because I know that I've read in the past about the stages and these sort of, like, it makes sense that pretty much everything that we consider, great or classic literature, does seem to follow this type of staging. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't familiar with it being called literary alchemy at all. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before, which kind of bummed me out because, I thought I was smart. But
yeah, I think that was this is specifically literary alchemy. So, and the way it's described here in this selection, alchemy in a nutshell was the science for the perfection or sanctification of the alchemist's soul. This heroic venture is all but impossible today because the way we look at reality, at things per se, makes the great work itself almost an absurdity. Unlike the medieval alchemists, we moderns and postmoderns see things with a clear subject/object distinction. That is, we believe you and I and that table are entirely different things, and between them there is no connection or relation. The knowing subject is one thing, and the observed object is completely other. To the alchemist, that is not the case. His efforts in changing lead to gold are based on the premise that he, as the subject, will go through the same types of changes and purifications as the materials he is working with. In sympathy with these metallurgical transitions and resolutions of contraries, his soul will be purified in correspondence as long as he is working in a prayerful state within the mysteries of his revealed tradition. Which is like, in itself, that is a difficult concept for me to wrap my mind around.
It is, yeah. And it's funny, too, is the little bit that I know about alchemy, which is very little, I was not aware that it was a spiritual thing.
Not at all.
I've only ever thought of it as being the thing about making lead into gold, basically. Mm-hmm. So this idea that the alchemists were expecting to go through a similar sort of purification or transition, I was like, oh, really? Mm-hmm. They thought they could change one thing into another thing.
I thought they just wanted to be rich, really. Like that was it. It wasn't even about the science so much as just like, well, I just want gold, thank you. So he continues on, how does this edifying magic become the scaffolding for Harry's adventures? Largely through the genius of William Shakespeare, largely through the genius of William Shakespeare, period. Hermetic wisdom and alchemical efforts were such commonplaces in Elizabethan England that Shakespeare and his contemporaries recognized the magic of stage drama as essentially alchemical. If we groundlings are all watching what's going on up on the stage and everything is working the way it's supposed to, the subject-object distinction dissolves inasmuch as we identify with the characters and their agonies. As they go through their changes, like the metals in a crucible, we identify with them and pass through the same cathartic moment.
Right.
Which that's neat.
So this idea, I think, has occurred to everybody, right? And at least I think nowadays our understanding is that's what we are looking for when we, come to a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I've never heard that experience called this.
Right.
But I think we all, like, when we come to something, we expect to be moved by it and to identify with the characters and to go through whatever the journey is with the characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I feel like this, and I don't even think it's supposed to be, but I kind of read that and I was like, yeah, that's why we do it though, right?
Right. Like it's just kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And you're giving a name to something that, like, I didn't know it needed a name, but okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says, the stream of English literature in which the narrator or characters and the reader or audience pass in correspondence through the stages of the alchemical work runs through the next 5 centuries of poetry, stage, work, stories, and novels. You may not have recognized it, but it's a big part of things you have read or viewed. And then he gives some examples of some classics that take this on, Romeo and Juliet and Tale of Two Cities. And I, like, this was where it started with me being like, I guess. Because with Tale of Two Cities, well, I'll start with the Romeo and Juliet example. You remember Romeo's melancholic beginnings and the strife and division in the streets of Verona. And the 3 colors for the alchemy thing are black, white, and red. And it's supposed to start with black, move on into white, and then end in red. And so he says the melancholic beginnings is like the black stage. The white stage begins when the young lovers meet, and the division between Capulet and Montague is joined when this couple is bound by the sacrament of marriage. The story is essentially over when they're married in the church service and the marriage is consummated. But the accomplishments of the white stage that are hidden have to be revealed on a larger stage in the crucible of the red stage. Through the deaths of Romeo and Juliet in the Capulet tomb, greater life comes to Verona. Juliet's parents and Romeo's father promise to erect golden statues of the star-crossed lovers, and the city is at peace at last. I mean, it just feels like that's the progression of a story. Mm-hmm. That being black, white, and red doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I feel like a lot of this is... how can I say this without sounding shitty? So sometimes people, I think, look for like little Easter eggs in things, right? And then when they start looking for it and then they find them, then they have to keep looking for them. And a lot is being made about these 3 colors, and I don't feel like that's important at all. You know?
Yeah. Yep. That's basically where I'm at with it. Because what he says, I'll start talking about the series taken all together has a black, white, and red stage too. Order of the Phoenix is the series black book. Half-Blood Prince is the white. And Deathly Hallows is the rubedo, or red stage, which he says that Deathly Hallows is the red stage, but then later on when he begins talking about Deathly Hallows, he's discussing the supposedly red book as if it's in itself containing black, white, and red.
Well,
he
does say that. He does say that he believes that the series as a whole, there's the black book, the white book, and the red book. But then he says, but in each book, the 3 stages are present in each book.
He does say that. Okay. Because I'm like, I was looking back for that and I couldn't find that, but this is a pretty long article.
Yeah.
In the individual books, the Black Stage or Negredo is almost always launched on Privet Drive, where Harry is treated horribly, and at least in the Philosopher's Stone lives in a cupboard under the stairs. The work of breaking Harry down continues each year when he gets to Hogwarts and Severus Snape takes over, a black figure if there ever was one. But Hogwarts is the home of Albus Dumbledore, whose first name means white, and Hogwarts, the quote White House, if you will, which I won't because I don't know why you say that, is where Harry is purified of the failing identified at the Dursleys as he and the quarreling couple solve that year's mystery. I do not know what that sentence means. I think I misread.
It's a long ass sentence.
Quarreling couple is capitalized, so I feel like he's referring to something.
And Ron.
Oh, okay. He and the quarreling couple. Okay. I feel like he's referring to something he's established already. So that must, yeah. This understanding he gains through these trials is revealed in the book's crisis, the confrontation with the bad guys, in which he always dies a figurative death and is reborn. From Privet Drive to his chat with Dumbledore at the book's end, Harry is always purified and transformed. So he talks about the prisoner of Azkaban. At the start, this is one angry teenage boy. He blows Aunt Marge up quite literally because she has a little too much to drink, and in a flood of Thatcherisms, Aunt Marge and her bulldogs being Margaret Thatcher and the Conservatives, after all, which I read that and I was like, wait, what? And I looked it up, and that is dead true. That is what J.K. Rowling says she was doing, that she based Aunt Marge on Margaret Thatcher. At the end of the same book, he is so much changed that he throws himself in front of Pettigrew, the man who actually betrayed his parents and was almost solely responsible for their deaths, because he felt his father wouldn't want his best friends to kill Peter Pettigrew. And then he says James Dean to sacrificial savior is a lead to gold transformation, right? Which is just an odd way to phrase that.
Yeah.
I think that was part of my problem with this, was the way that this person is writing this feels like I should have like a kind of line into their inside jokes or their mindset already.
This appears to be him talking about a speech he did, or it's either just a transcript of the speech, which might explain why the writing is kind of choppy and not well written, because it's actually just him talking. It opens with him saying, "Tonight, as you can see, I'm dressed." Blah blah blah. Right. So it sounds very much like he's addressing a group of people, and there are probably people who are, as a matter of fact, it just says at the very beginning too that he gave a talk at this college. And
the book that it's from is called the Deathly Hallows Lectures.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that is correct. It's just hard to follow for me when it hasn't been kind of edited for the reader,
Right, and I agree too, because the way he has quarreling couple, it makes me think that this is another aspect of the book that he talks about somewhere else. So he's already identified them as the quarreling couple,
right?
And he's talking to people who I guess he's assuming would know that, as opposed to just this is something that's going to be widely circulated on the internet, and maybe you want to remember who you're talking to.
Yeah, and the James Dean to sacrificial savior. I'm like, again, I feel like there's a lot of assuming that I'm going to agree with assessments on things, where I don't feel like Harry being angry at the beginning of the book is a James Dean thing, because that's the whole thing is rebel without a cause, and he has one. But anyway.
Have you ever seen Rebel Without a Cause?
No.
Oh.
Why? Have you?
Because he's got a cause, but but the cause is anyway. That's a different conversation. I get your point.
Then why is it called that?
Because his cause is not considered legitimate. He's just angsty and angry, and the system is rigged, and he's also just a teenager, so it's not considered a real thing.
Okay.
But to your point, Harry has very real, specific things to be angry about.
Yeah, and has probably arguably is suffering from PTSD from watching a friend get murdered right in front of him.
Right. I think too that that's a weird comparison to make, because even though Harry is angry, I don't think he ever comes across as not caring about people or his friends. Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just I don't know. I see what the guy was trying to say. He was an angry brat at the beginning, but now he's I hate the word sanctified, but I'm going to use it because he used it first. But now he's sanctified and pure and willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to save someone who isn't really what we would consider worth saving.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's unfair because that makes it, because I think Harry was always the kind of Harry that would save someone.
Yeah, I agree. Like, him blowing up Aunt Marge does not mean that he wouldn't have kept somebody from coming in to try and murder her if that happened. He was just angry at her and doing something humiliating, but not actually like harmful long term.
Yeah.
I mean, not harmful so long as Dumbledore was able to go in there and shrink her back down. So he says Negredo is the stage in which the subject is broken down, stripped of all but the essential qualities for purification in the albedo or white work. Order of the Phoenix, darkest and most disturbing of all the Harry Potter novels, is the stage in the series. Ms. Rowling, sorry guys, cues us to this not only in the plot points, all of which are about Harry's loss of his identity, but in the blackness of the book. No small part of this takes place in the House of Black, and it ends, of course, with the death of Sirius Black. Most important, though, is that the Phoenix details Harry's near-complete dissolution. Every idea he has of himself is taken from him. Dolores Umbridge teaches him that Hogwarts can be hell. He learns his father was a jerk. No Quidditch. Ron and Hermione outrank him on the Hogwarts totem pole. The entire girl thing eludes him, except for agonizing confusion and heartbreak. Everything, in brief, is a nightmare for him in his 5th year. His self-understanding and identity are shattered, except at the very end after Sirius's death, and with any hope of a family life with his godfather, Harry learns about the prophecy. That understanding replaces everything else, and that's the end of the black work. That is, in my opinion, the strongest argument.
Mm-hmm.
All of that, like I even said before we started the 5th book, get ready, because everything that was bringing you comfort about the first 4 books is gonna be gone now. So that one is the one that I see this theory being the most true. And that one is part of why, when you say that he already said that there's black, white, and red within each book, that one feels like it's pretty much exclusively black based on the way that he's defined it.
Yeah, later on, he actually breaks it down into chapters of the phase, but I think he doesn't do it for that book.
No, he doesn't.
For I think Hallows is the one he does that.
And that was what kind of bothered me, was I felt like it was not consistent, which I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be consistent, but when you're trying to categorize things like this, and you're then trying to be like, well, it doesn't have to be consistent, then I feel like you're sort of undermining your own point. But
I think part of the part of this that is fun for me is there are like universal things, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in these types of stories, you see it a lot in like fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I think you could probably take this theory and apply it to any book that we know. Mm-hmm. And once you go looking, again, it's like the Easter eggs. Once you know what you're looking for, you can say, oh, I see it here, and there it is there, and Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's something that is, I almost want to say, needed.
That's what I mean. Like, they're giving a name to elements of a story that are so broad that it feels as totally unnecessary.
Yeah. I wonder if, trying to think, I wonder if, I don't know how to finish that sentence.
Let me finish the next 2 books, quick summaries, and then we'll talk about this as a whole. When Half-Blood Prince begins, we feel we are in a different universe. Albus Dumbledore is not only back in Harry's life, he comes to pick him up at Privet Drive. The headmaster, largely absent in Phoenix, is everywhere in Prince. This is his book, which, given the meaning of his name and the work that is accomplished, might be called the White Book. Not to mention, like Sirius at the end of the Black Book, Albus dies at the end of White. Through the tutorials with Dumbledore and the tasks he is given, Harry comes to a whole new understanding of himself in terms of the prophecy and his relationship with Lord Voldemort. Harry doesn't get the whole truth from the headmaster, but at the end of Prince, he has been transformed from a boy who doesn't believe Dumbledore will show up to one that defiantly tells the Minister of Magic, I'm a Dumbledore man through and through. And again, he's describing this book as if it's in entirety a white book. And then he says Deathly Hallows, you probably guessed, being last, is the red book, the Rubedo. If you've read the alchemy chapters in Unlocking Harry Potter, which I have not, you know that what has to happen in the Rubedo. Just like Romeo and Juliet and Tale of Two Cities, a wedding has to be revealed, contraries have to be resolved, and a death of self must lead to greater life. We should expect to see a philosopher's stone and a philosophical orphan as well. The Rubedo of Deathly Hallows is the crisis of the whole series we waited 2 years to read, and it is everything alchemical we could have hoped for. And then he says, we start off with Bill and Fleur's alchemical wedding, in which France and England are married in the Sitzkrieg before the shooting war with Voldemort's Nazis begins. Like, again, with assuming that I'm just going to be on board with that interpretation. I don't have any reason not to be necessarily, but I'm not sure that I see that. And then the first 8 chapters of Deathly Hallows are lead up to this union of opposites, of choler and phlegm, which there's no explanation given on what that means. And at this point, I had bounced between browser windows trying to like understand what he was talking about on a few things so many times that I was like, I'm not even doing this now. As you'd expect, the wedding itself is a meeting of contraries of solar and lunar. That's why, in addition to the Gallic and Britain jokes, we have the lunar love goods show up in sunlight bright yellow. Luna, the moon, in a solar outfit, explains that it's good luck to wear gold at a wedding. This isn't just Loony Luna. Everything at the wedding is golden. The floor, the poles, the band jackets, the bridesmaids' dresses, even Tonks's hair. Sure. Like, again, I'm like, there's a lot of assignment of meaning here where gold is a pretty traditional wedding color. Like white and gold are frequently the thing. Yeah. And when he explains that it's good luck to wear gold at a wedding, she says yellow, not like bright. I'm not sure that those are the same thing. I don't know. Just like little things like this where I feel like it's being taken for granted that this is true when I don't really buy it. And then we have a long way to go before the conjunction of the Slytherin and Gryffindor opposites. The wedding breaks up with the arrival of the Lynx, and the message that Rufus Scrimgeour is dead. With the wedding and the death of the first character whose name means red, the real action of Deathly Hallows' alchemical work begins. So that was another thing that confused me. This character's name means red. One would think that would signal the transition into the red section, but he's saying that now starts the black section. Because then he goes back.
Yeah, see, I don't, like, where does he describe Hagrid when he starts to talk about why Hagrid's the red? Because
he talks about that when Hagrid comes flying through the Hogwarts wall, that's the signal that the red section has begun, which to me feels pretty weak.
Yeah, wait,
it's pretty far down from that.
Yeah, it'll be forever before I find it. But so it's like the three colors mean different things, right? Like, so you have the red, the white, and the black as people, which doesn't necessarily seem like it lines up with the red, the white, and the black as stages.
Mm-hmm. But it does sometimes, though, like having Sirius Black end at the end of the Black Book, having Albus Dumbledore die at the end of the White Book. Yeah. That is, he's saying it does match up there, but then it doesn't later.
But he says Snape is a black. He identifies Snape as being black.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I mean, she uses Sirius Black and that name, and that ends the black chapter. But Snape is the one that's the black to the red Hagrid and the white Dumbledore.
Okay.
Right? So it's like he's using it to mean two different things, kind of. Or maybe he means the same thing, but I don't know. This is a lot. A lot of it, I thought it was a lot. Because he even says Snape is like the. What does he say at the beginning? Is it the beginning when he says Snape is the blackest?
The blackest character you could want, I think, is kind of what he says. But then he doesn't bring Snape up again. Is kind of what I mean. Like, he just talks about the Blacks, the House of Black and Sirius Black.
Yeah.
But then Snape doesn't factor into his later explanations.
Not until the very end. I don't think he talks about Snape again until he's dead, practically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he. I think at the very end of the chapter when he talks about the fucking battle is when he next mentions Snape.
Okay. So yeah, he talks about the black section of this book, being the camping trip and everything. Mm-hmm. And then just when I almost closed the book feeling a little despair myself just before dawn, the Negredo ends with the brilliance reflecting off the silver doe in the snow-covered forest of Dean. This chapter, a meeting of Christian, alchemical, and Arthurian images in one spot, is probably the height of Ms. Rowling's achievement as a writer. A detailed look at the alchemy of Deathly Hallows is a talk longer than this one, and most of it is in the white stage. Ron the Baptist saving Harry, Ron's exorcism in destroying the Horcrux, Harry's death of self, he keeps saying death to self, which I kind of find confusing, and discovery of remorse, repentance, faith, and love in Dobby's grave, and the pale dragon in Gringotts are all images of purification with water on hand or nearby. And then the white stone on the red earth of Dobby's grave and the milkily pink eyes are chromatic signs of the story's movement from white to red. Which, again, that just feels like such a reach to me. That's so crazy. Like, milkily pink eyes is supposed to, like, come on. If we talk about color every time as being a signal that something, then she mentions color a billion times throughout these books. It just doesn't make sense to zero in on one instance of a color being cited and not others. The rubedo of Deathly Hallows begins, I think, when Harry refuses to listen to Aberforth's complaints and criticisms of his brother Albus. When Harry shows his faith and his choice to believe, Neville appears to take him in the castle and the battle for Hogwarts begins. You could say the red stage really begins when Rubus, the half-giant whose name means red, flies through the window of the Hogwarts castle. In this battle, which includes Harry's sacrifice in the Forbidden Forest and his ultimate victory over Voldemort, the contraries are resolved and all the houses sit down at one table. The battle also causes the creation of the philosophical orphan when Nymphadora and Remus Lupin are killed. Which I don't understand why it's a philosophical orphan, because that's just a literal orphan. That's an actual, that's what do you mean? Am I, like,
I know. I have to fucking, I'm trying to, like, Google as we go along, because you're right. It's a lot of things he's referring to that I just don't get.
And
I'm still stuck on the cholera and phlegm thing.
Right.
Trying to find that out. And those are like different humors.
I thought it was humors, but I was just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I tried to start reading this book, but even from the beginning of it, I felt like this. Like, he was throwing things out there that I was just supposed to take on his word.
Yeah. So, choleric is youth, fire, yellow, phlegm is winter and old age, water. But he uses that to describe Fleur and Bill. Which
doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, he's not that much older than her, and yes, he's injured at this, by the time they get married, but he wasn't initially. So is it because he's injured? Is that supposed to mean, he's damaged, but she's going to love him anyway? Because, I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to do with that.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right to me. So there's a whole other section that I won't get into because that one was a little tough for me. there's a sentence that was so hard. Via Harry's death to self in the white stages, Dobby's funeral, revealed in his willing self-sacrifice before Voldemort, death's power is broken. That I don't. We see a complete transformation in Harry, too. He is a Dumbledore man by confession as the story begins, but his disbelief and lack of trust come to the fore after his fight with Nagini in Godric's Hollow. After choosing to believe, however, when he is in Dobby's grave and choosing to pursue the Horcruxes as instructed rather than the Hallows, he becomes almost Christ-like in dying and rising from the dead to vanquish death. Even the near omnipotent Dumbledore begs Harry's forgiveness and tells him he has known for a long time that Harry was the better man. What has made Harry the better man was becoming the Gryffindor/Slytherin union himself. Again, call him Albus Severus Potter, as Harry and Ginevra name their younger son. He becomes the conjunction of contraries. We learn in the first key by acquiring the seemingly contradictory views of both Albus Dumbledore, champion Gryffindor, and Severus Snape, Slytherin housemaster and icon by the end of Deathly Hallows. How does he acquire Severus's views?
I like the idea that Harry represents a merging of these forces or types of people that have been so rigidly defined in this world.
Okay.
But and I think if he wanted to support that, he maybe would have mentioned that at the beginning in the first book there's a pause between whether Harry's going to be sorted to Gryffindor or Slytherin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised that he doesn't use that instead to make his point about how you can use these two different sides of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So so you don't get so you're not as single-minded, as like Dumbledore is or even Snape is in his Snapiness. But and the writer even says that at the end of the battle, all the houses are eating at the same table, and that signifies some sort of great coming together of all these different sides. So I understand a little bit about what he means, but I didn't think he did a good job of supporting that.
Especially because Slytherin's all gone at the end. Right? Like, they're not there, so the only person is the head of house. So I feel like that's the opposite.
Were there no Slytherins left? I think we talked about this a little bit before.
I mean, they're all told to leave because they try to give Harry up. So then they get escorted to the portrait hole and sent home. I don't know if they come back for the feast after the battle's over, but that seems shitty. Can you imagine that? It's like somebody coming to the work party when they haven't shown up to work in 2 months, like put that fucking slice of pizza down. So I feel like that and the fact that they're not there, and then also saying acquiring the seemingly contradictory views of Albus and Severus. Albus and Severus were working together, but I don't feel like Harry takes on their viewpoints exactly.
Yeah,
I'm really just not clear what he means by that.
Yeah. He says acquiring the seemingly contradictory views.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I wish he. I don't really wish he talked more, but I wish.
Oh shit!
I wish that he had said what these views are. So to your point, what does he? Because, Albus and Severus were very different people.
Mm-hmm.
But they're. I don't know what he means by Snape's. Okay, I guess Snape was. What if Snape did Harry take on?
That's exactly what I'm asking.
I'm trying. I thought I had an example, but I don't think that I do.
Oh, the only thing, because he says takes on his viewpoint, and in a very literal sense, he actually gets his viewpoint in a bottle because he goes into the Pensieve into his thoughts. But that's not what I think he means when he says that.
Yeah, and he does that for both Snape and Dumbledore. So I guess he's been in both of their heads, but that doesn't feel like what he's trying to say here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know. this whole thing, it's like, I understand why people find this to be interesting and somewhat compelling, but and it could be argued that I should read further into this, but the way that he structured this doesn't encourage me to want to read more about it.
I might actually go and do some poking around and read about it because, you know, I'm a little bit of a nerd like that. And this is right up my alley of stuff to read about. But I don't know that I agree with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's interesting. I don't think it's as interesting as he clearly thinks it is.
Yeah, I think that what you said about, like, is this necessary is really what it comes down to for me. Is that, like, the story cycle of establishing a character, taking away everything that character has depended on for comfort and stability, and seeing who they are without that, throwing them into an intense conflict that they then come out elevated somehow, and then conflict resolution. That's just how you write a story.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's just this. Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know.
I would be curious to read, because he, at the beginning when he talks about it's so everywhere, right? This idea of that's what a story is. And he suggested at the very beginning that it's that way because the influence was so broad that practically everything we consider to be storytelling is after this alchemist period, right?
Right.
So that we really don't. It's difficult for us to recognize it as being something worth looking into because we see it everywhere. We just sort of take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
But so that implies that it wasn't like that before, and I'm curious. And I'll have to just go and get into like a little Google rabbit hole because that means that there's writing that doesn't fit this. And I can't think of anything that doesn't fit this, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what story doesn't fit this mold? If this is something that happened because of a thing, then what was it like before? What stories are out there that exist that don't line up with this? Or maybe I'm missing his point, because another thing that he's talking a lot about here is the journey of the main character, right?
Okay.
And becoming more of what they really are, or what they're really supposed to be. And maybe this guy's point isn't that is interesting in and of itself, but his idea of we are able as readers to also experience some type of transformation because of what the character is going through.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I thought that's what he said basically from the beginning, isn't it?
Well, he opens with that, but then
then he doesn't go back to it again.
I don't think, unless I missed it at the end, I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. And part of this, I feel like, I'm not sure if we're being totally fair because this is an excerpt from a book, so he may go back and talk about it.
Oh, I'm sure
in the book, you know, like, but yeah, here it does feel kind of unfinished.
Yeah. Well, maybe instead of just talking about this little blip, we should have just read.
Well, that's what, because Susan sent it to me, and you know, I knew that while I was doing the actual series with you for the first time that I wasn't going to have time to read it. But then when we finished, I was like, well, let me sit down and start this and see what I can bring up. And I started it, and it was like this, where I felt like in the first page, had to stop and look up like 3 things. And because he just threw things out there that seemed a little outlandish to me and said them in such an authoritative way as if it was established and known and we all can agree on this, right? And I'm like, no, we can't. So I started to get really frustrated and I just put it aside. So I'd be willing to go back and check it out, but I feel like I wish it were a digital book with like footnotes that I could tap. Right. Be brought to the information that's relevant to it, because otherwise I don't really get drawn into it, because I feel like I need to have read all of his previous work to really get what he's talking about here. It's just
and this is supposed to be an introduction.
right. Yeah.
There's a book for sale embedded in the article. It's called Dark Hieroglyphics: Alchemy in English Literature from Chaucer to the Restoration.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, fuck Chaucer. That's like...
Fuck Chaucer. That dickhead. What a shit, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, but all that said, I still do find this a little bit interesting, and I probably will continue to read about it.
Okay. Well, yeah, let me know what you find out.
Yeah.
Give me, like, if you do look into it, and maybe I can send you a copy of the book that Susan sent me. You can tell me what sections to read, and I'll be the unspoiled one.
I'm thinking I might look for it and see if there is an ebook, because I like the idea that there might be links and shit in there.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the only way to read this guy, because I felt pretty fucking dumb by the end of it.
Yeah, that's like, because I was like, oh, I'll just sit down, and I thought that I could sit down and read the whole thing once we were done with the series. But it was so dense that, there's no way. Like, what I planned to do once I realized that I couldn't read it that way, my plan was to reread it as I reread Harry Potter with you and bring things up as we went along. Which I'm not sure would necessarily work, because it might not what is being talked about in the book might not be where we are when we reread. So,
right. Did you bother to go to the Wikipedia link that he puts in there at the beginning?
No.
You probably should have done that too.
Well, I didn't, because of the way he dismissively gives it to us. He's like, I mean, you could check out Wikipedia, but, and then goes on to explain it himself. So I was like, well, then why would I do that? Yeah,
he let me see. Blah, 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 blah. Also, who is the guy who wrote this? Because I want to say, is his name anywhere in here?
Yeah, it's Granger. Hold on, let me find it. Boop, 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 boop.
John Granger?
John Granger, yes.
Okay, so...
Because I always remember, because he has the same last name as Hermione.
I just put in literary alchemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things that... Okay, he's pretty much the only person that pops up. Or he's the first big hits. And it sounds like this term is... Okay, well, it says it's a phrase that he uses. Let me see. But then someone else says it dates back to 1971. So I don't think it's a very well-known... Or maybe it is well-known, and I just don't know what the fuck is going on in the world. Yeah, I've just never heard of this. I'm a little bit stunned. Huh. Well, if you decide to reread it along with the books, I will get a copy and I'll read it with you.
Okay, cool. Then maybe we can do that. So in other news, because that was pretty much the only thing I knew that this would spawn a pretty large discussion. But I just basically went to the group and was like, hey guys, so what should we talk about today? And one of the things that the first post that Chris made was just, what's the first thing you would do if you were witches? Which, nah. And he then said that don't worry about it. Just have some wine and riff. You two riffing is magical. Which, aw, it is, isn't it? What is the first thing that you would do as a witch in the Muggle world? I would probably put an addition on the house.
Yeah, I would definitely spend some money. I would first witch up some money, and then I would immediately spend that money.
Well, and that's the question, right? Because this is something that doesn't come up until the last book. But apparently there is a law about how magic works that you can't just make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the money thing works.
Well, I would probably use my abilities to just have somebody give me some money.
Okay.
You know, I would just walk into a bank maybe if I needed muggle money, you know, or anybody. Anybody can be a victim. I would probably be a terrible person if I were.
Like, yeah, I'm thinking about how that would, you could go into a bank and just be like, hand me this much amount, but that's just your bank robber. I guess you could use like potion to make yourself look different, so then they would never catch you.
I could just have somebody just show up at my house every Friday with money for me. I don't care.
But where are they getting it from?
I don't care. It's not
You're ruining their life, RoShawn. You've created a fucking Renfield, is what you've done, Dracula. Good God, you're a fucking Death Eater over here. Who cares about the muggle? I don't care where it's from.
Oh, it didn't take very long for me to get very, very dark. But that's where I am right now, people. Right now, I am thinking about ways to get people to give me money.
Yeah, like if I could do the money thing, then I would do that and pay off my student loans. Because I still have like 25 grand to pay off. So give me that. Yeah. Or I would just like bewitch somebody to erase my like record. Mm-hmm. That's probably what I would do.
That's the smart thing to do. Just get me a whole clean slate.
Yeah.
And then nobody really gets hurt. And, you know, fuck the man, so.
Yeah, I could have somebody like alter my credit score.
Yeah. Wasn't fucking Anonymous supposed to do that for us like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
What are those guys waiting on?
I don't know, man. Get on it.
They're not about no revolution.
Krista asks, which characters would we want to have dinner with? Well, Trelawney, obviously.
Yeah?
She would be hysterical. I would never stop laughing. It would be like having dinner with my mom times 10. Because my mom tries to think that she like can see things, or like the astrology tells her stuff. And it can get a little annoying, but she lets it go pretty easy. Trelawney doesn't. And she really thinks that she had like, so that would be super funny. Trelawney and McGonagall together, that would be a real entertaining dinner. I think
that would be a lot of fun. I feel like Trelawney would get smashed.
I forgot that she does that. It's true.
And McGonagall would be like really annoyed with her, but she's also really cares for her. So it would be that kind of annoyance you get when, you know, but you still love the person, so it wouldn't be like a terrible scene.
The twins. But both twins.
Yeah.
I want to have dinner with them before the battle or something, you know.
I would want to have dinner with them, but not like just me.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't want their attention on me. You know? It's like going like to a comedy club, but you don't want to sit like in the front.
Yep.
So I would like a big group dynamic with the twins so that I could just watch them be hysterical.
Gotcha.
Without any chance of me being the butt of any jokes or pranks or anything else.
Good luck with that.
I would like to be like really cool with Snape because I feel like he could probably talk shit about everybody. And it would be you know how you have a friend that's like really good at being really shady?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So yeah, I would be down for that. Yeah. I would love to be Snape's friend. So I could be like, guess what this motherfucker did?
Oh, I love that.
I could tell him. Yeah. And then he would go and post something all passive aggressive on their Facebook page for me.
Oh my God. I need to give you access to the basic Snape Twitter so you can start role playing. Oh man, I love that. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Like
I wouldn't mind going to the Weasleys for dinner. I think they're a lovely family, and I really like Arthur and Molly Weasley a lot.
Okay,
I feel
true.
like they would be really comfortable and loving, and they would like just accept me in their life, and they wouldn't judge me at all.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other teachers. Like, I feel like Luna, obviously.
Oh, obviously. Yeah.
Oh my God, Luna and Trelawney at the same table. Can you imagine that? That shit would be bananas.
Was Luna ever in those classes?
No, they almost always got paired with fucking Ravenclaw or Slytherin.
Oh yeah, I would have loved to seen her in one of their classes, one of her Trelawney's classes with them.
I'm trying to think. They were paired with Slytherin for like potions. They were paired with Hufflepuff for herbology. I almost feel like they weren't paired with anybody when it came to the divination lessons because the classes were so small. And people that like they didn't start divination until the year when you got to start choosing what you were taking. So, yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, that would be pretty amazing. Because they both believe in such crazy stuff, but I don't know if they would believe each other's crazy stuff.
I don't think they would.
No.
I really don't think they would. I think that the stuff that Luna believes in, Trelawney would think is like garbage, like tabloid garbage, and beneath her, you know. Trelawney would be, you know, all new age type stuff with her crystals and her whatever, her aromatherapy.
Oh, you know what? Snape and Rita Skeeter. There goes a tea session. That would be because I don't know how Snape would react to her.
I feel like he would hate her.
I agree. But that's kind of what I would like.
She would know all of his shit too, his childhood shit.
Probably.
She would bring that shit up and he would be so angry at her. He would probably kill her.
Ha!
She would call him whatever his nickname was. I forget that James used to call him.
Snivelus.
Yeah, and he would lose his shit.
Oh, that's funny. And then Lindsay Anderson asks, what conversation or encounter would you have liked to be a fly on the wall for, but we didn't get to see because Harry wasn't there, i.e., why aren't we expelling Sirius for the Whomping Willow incident? What McGonagall and Umbridge said after Harry was dismissed from his careers interview. I don't know because like he happens to be there or gets to hear about things so much of the time that there's very little. The only thing that I would really have loved to see is them killing the Horcrux in the basement or the Chamber of Secrets. I call it the basement. Because Harry wasn't there and they just like show up with their arms full of basilisk fangs. And they're like, oh yeah, no, it's taken care of, which is kind of crazy. I'm fine with it, but I would like to see that.
That's right. We never did see that, did we?
No, and like the fact that Harry, that, you know, there have been obstacles to destroying them before. I would be interested to see what the obstacle for Hermione was. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any others. I feel like there should be one that I think of right away. Like there's something obvious that I'm missing.
Yeah. I know I used to talk, especially in the early books. I was just incensed all the time at the decisions or the bad decisions that all the adults seem to be making.
Yes.
All the time. And like you said with Snape in the Willow, I feel like there's a couple of scenes where we saw Snape and Dumbledore, but we don't get to see what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we know at the end of the book, we get like the gist of what was going on between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But
I would have loved to see after Harry and company escape from Malfoy Manor, what happened when Voldemort got back. Because they call him back, and then they've escaped yet again.
We know it's bad. We hear some parts, right? Don't we find out later?
We find, like, they've been fucked up and are on house arrest, basically.
Yeah, but we don't get to see his wrath.
Yeah. So I feel like that would have been pretty satisfying to get to watch that.
I think so, yeah.
Isn't it kind of messed up that all the ones that I'm citing, I'm like, ooh, what's this fucked up thing we could have seen? But like, you know, yeah, I do want to see that. What's wrong with that? Yeah. All right.
When did Bill get bitten?
It is. When does Bill get bitten? I'm looking it up.
Is that at the secrets, the mysteries or whatever? Is it that battle? Is he there for that? Is Veneer even at that one? When does that happen?
During the Battle of the Astronomy Tower. So it's the one where Dumbledore gets killed.
Dumbledore dies?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Do we see him? Do we see that happen?
No, we find out about it later.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought. It was like, yeah, it just we get news later that happened.
Yeah. And the last one was from Nate, who says, "What do they call Hufflepuff in other countries?" And I don't know, so I'm looking it up right now because I bet that's hilarious. So let's see. 8 languages with different names for the Hogwarts houses from Mental Floss. In French, Hufflepuff becomes Pouf Soufflé. Oh my God. Oh, that's the French ones overall. Gryffindor becomes Gryffondor, which like whoop-de-doo. Hufflepuff becomes Pouf Soufflé. Ravenclaw becomes Surdigel? I don't know how to say this, sorry guys, which comes from Sir Daigel, or Claw of the Eagle. Slytherin becomes Serpentard, which sounds like a fucking insult. Like,
that's terrible.
That's so simultaneously terrible and amazing. Brazilian Portuguese. Gryffindor becomes Gryffinoria. Hufflepuff becomes Lufa Lufa.
Oh my God. It must be.
It's hyphenated. Lufa Lufa. Lufa hyphen Lufa. Ravenclaw becomes Corvinal, a word that goes back to the Latin corvinus for raven. Slytherin becomes Sonserina. I don't know why. Almost like those first two, the only explanation we get is for Ravenclaw both times.
Right.
Because I don't know what Lufa Lufa fucking is.
And they felt no need to explain.
Nope. They're just like, well, you know.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said they're just like, well, you know. I mean, it's a goofy fucking name, so who cares, right?
I feel like that's exactly what's happening.
Yep.
They're like, I mean, you know, fucking she should explain what a Hufflepuff is first, and then maybe other will just be concerned about explaining it.
Yes. Italian, Gryffindor becomes Gryffondoro. Hufflepuff becomes Tassoroso. That's not too bad, which means red badger.
Oh, so they just decided to go by the animal.
Yeah, I guess so.
See, Italians, they know.
Ravenclaw becomes Corvo Nero. Slytherin becomes Serpeverde. Green snake. Okay. Norwegian, Gryffindor becomes Griffing. Hufflepuff becomes Hasplas.
Oh, wow.
I don't know that I'm saying these right. Ravenclaw becomes Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw. Slytherin becomes Smygard, a play on smyg, to sneak, creep, or slink.
Oh. We have a Norwegian patron, right? Is she
I believe so. Yeah, who sent us a chocolate.
Oh, it was so good.
Really? That chocolate. Okay. Because she had said, like, be careful of that other one because it's my favorite. She wasn't wrong. Be careful because you're going to literally go into a coma because you ate half the bar in one shot, which I did. Oh man, it was too good. It was too good. The next 4 are Welsh, and I'm not even going to try. Like, for example, the Hufflepuff one is spelled, it's WFFTIWFF, which is pronounced something like Uftuf.
Isn't David Kehoe from Wales?
Yeah. Or no, Scotland. He's from Scotland.
Oh, Scotland. Sorry.
And like all of them are basically pure consonants. Like there's a spattering of some vowels that don't look like they're in the right place at all. Check. Gryffindor becomes Nevilleveer. Hufflepuff becomes Merzmore. Merzmore. It's Mrzimor. Merzmore. Ravenclaw becomes Havraspar. Slytherin becomes Smeagolzel, which sounds like evil snake. How about
those
that?
All sound like oppression. Like all those words are just like
Oh my God. Okay. Calm down, Natasha. Okay, I'm saving that one for last. Let's go Finnish next. Which, by the way, this one's Finnish, and we just got a review from Finland from Tommy Helenen. So what's up, Tommy? Gryffindor becomes Rokeliko, which contains the Finnish word for courageous, Rokia. Hufflepuff becomes Pooscoopa, which just sounds like poop scooper. Pooscoopa. I'm sorry. Ravenclaw becomes Korpinski. Oh, this is hard. Korpinkinsi. Oh, man, forget it. Slytherin becomes Louis Hunan.
Wow.
I'm sorry, guys. Everybody who's like actually speaks the languages I'm trying to pronounce here is like has their hand over their face and they're just like, just stop.
Horrified right now.
But here's my favorite. I'm saving Hufflepuff for last on this one. Gryffindor becomes Cercetas. Romanian, by the way, this is. Ravenclaw becomes Ochi de Som, which means Eye of the Hawk. Slytherin becomes Viperin. Okay.
Yeah.
Hufflepuff becomes Astropoof. Astropoof. Astropuff. Oh, God, that's wonderful. Thanks, Nate Swanson, for suggesting that I check that out. Astropoof. Lufa, poof souffle. Oh, God. This is like Hufflepuff's. I'm sorry. I am. That's just kind of rude.
It's so perfect, though, because, of course.
Right?
Are you going to call Owen Poof Souffle now?
Oh, my God. He would just... I bet he'd love it. My favorite thing is, like, one of my favorite French words is pamplemousse, which is grapefruit. Pamplemousse.
I don't know why I knew that, but somehow I knew that.
Because it's on, like cosmetics bottles and stuff. Like, that's how I learned any French, is from cosmetics bottles. Right? Sorry, poof souffles out there. Love you. I should get that put on one of the... Because they wouldn't deny me printing that one up. Because it's not technically a copyright infringement. I'll just put a poof souffle with a little badger picture. What's up? Lufa. Ravenclaw, meanwhile, was like very dignified no matter what language it was. Which I just think is kind of also unfair.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to a couple people. We had a special delivery from Ann Thomas, who sent us awesome Hogwarts alumni mugs, which were like, she didn't warn us that they were coming. And so it was such a delightful little surprise. Yeah. And they're really cool looking.
Yeah, I saw yours, and I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." And then, like, the next day, I had one.
Surprise! And then you had gotten it last week, but I just got mine, the crocheted snitch from Alex Irwin, which he was messaging me on the Facebook page, and he was like, "Oh, the name of my craft," because he's going to start an Etsy page, but he hasn't yet. But he has a Facebook page for Mongoose Dog Designs. And I went to Mongoose Dog Designs, and he's done a bunch of awesome Pokemon that are crocheted. And I just like kind of died a little. They're so cute. Like, the snitch is adorable, but it doesn't have a face. Pokemon have adorable little faces. So I was like, I think I may need to commission you to do me a Jigglypuff or something at some point. So yeah, you guys should check out Mongoose Dog Designs, because he has some really cute ones. He has the banner picture is like the Pokemon starters. So there's Bulbasaur, which is my favorite, and Charmander, and whatnot. So yeah, thank you so much to both of you guys. And I believe last week I had already thanked Sheila Murray and Andrew Morris for their donations. But then I got another donation from Tessa French. So thank you so much, Tessa. She sent me this really sweet note with it and was like, do whatever you want with this money. Go take yourself out to dinner or spend it on bills or whatever you want. I was like, Tessa, thank you. And I got myself a couple of little bath bombs, which got stolen out of my mailbox. Boo. But that, I think, my Etsy seller might help me out on that one, so we'll see.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she sent me a message when we started, and I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Because she says she's insured, so thank you so much, Tessa, for that. That was really sweet, and I always appreciate it when somebody gives me money and like reassures me that I can be as irresponsible as I want and they won't judge me for it. Like, it's not necessary that you reassure me, because I'll probably just be irresponsible anyway without approval. But I like knowing that, it's okay with you. So thank you, Tessa, for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, all of you. And then I just got 2 new patrons this week. We have Melanie Linares and Dos Moonen, which is such a great name. Dos Moonen and Melanie Linares. So welcome to both of you. And both of you are above the $5 tier, so you'll both be able to get access to the Twin Peaks episodes that we've been doing. And Melanie will be getting a basic Snape postcard once they arrive. They are supposed to be in my mailbox on Tuesday, and hopefully they do not get stolen.
Right, I was just going to say the same thing.
So I'm excited to start sending those out. So thank you guys so much for pledging, and I hope that you register on unspoiledpodcast.com and get access to some of the legacy episodes of the older stuff. And I just wanted to remind everybody too, how to say this, the world's a shitstorm and everything is terrible. And in many ways it can feel like it's hopeless. And I'm not even going to lie and tell you it's not hopeless, because it might be hopeless. Like, who knows? I'm nobody to say otherwise. But I'm trying to counteract that feeling of like, I can't do anything by doing the Broad Defense weekly calls. And if you guys don't know what this is, I mentioned this on another episode, but Broad Defense, we're on Facebook, facebook.com/Broad Defense. And it is a weekly call to our congressmen or our local level senators and House representatives that we make on camera. And it's me and Karen who founded Bill Track 50, which is a legislative tracking website. And this whole thing is meant to encourage everybody who hasn't been on top of making phone calls to their representatives, because they are anxious about it, don't know exactly how it will go down, if they're going to have to like defend their position, all of this kind of thing. It's really good for me personally just to have accountability that forces me to find an issue to call on every week. And there's no shortage of issues. But what can be overwhelming for people is that there are so many issues that you just don't know where the fuck to focus, because everything feels crucial and everything feels urgent. And really the point behind Broad Defense is to have a consistent like calling schedule that people can sort of mirror, and also pare down because there's a couple groups that I'm a part of on Facebook, political groups, and they're like, today call on these like 12 bills, and they'll post posts like that every day, sometimes twice a day, and it can get to be a lot. Yeah. Like, you know, it's not like it's unreasonable to ask people to do this stuff, but even as somebody who wants to be involved, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, can we just chill a little bit? So I feel like paring it down to once a week, we usually call on 2 bills per video. I think that makes it feel more manageable and easier for us to like focus and not feel like we're trying to run in a bunch of different directions and put out a bunch of fires. Mm-hmm. And when I posed this idea of doing calls live on camera to make people feel like they were more confident, a lot of people said they were interested. And since then, nobody has been coming. Right. Like 2 people. And I understand to a degree that part of it is just the time thing, because we do them at 2:00 in the afternoon because that's when business hours are and we know somebody will be answering the phones. And we do that on a Wednesday. It's 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. But when I did them on Wednesday for a few weeks, or on Saturday for a few weeks, nobody was coming to those either. So I would really love it if people would give me their feedback on if something like this is still of interest to them and when is a good time for them to come, because I can do it in the evening, but there won't be actual humans answering the phone. Right.
It doesn't really.
It doesn't have the same impact. Like, it has the same impact in that they will still tally your call, even if you call after hours. But a lot of times, if you call after hours, with the way things have been going down, when you call after hours, the mailboxes are full and you can't even leave a voicemail. Mm-hmm. I had that happen a couple times. So calling during the day when somebody's actually there to answer, you're avoiding getting like just chucked into the fucking voicemail box with 7,000 other people. Right. So
I think too, I don't know about, like I know different people, like I know people who are still calling, mm-hmm. But just at like different times during their day. I haven't joined one because that's just like, it's a tough time to get away. Mm-hmm. But how long are you usually doing it?
15 minutes. It's short.
It's just 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It's like sometimes it's not even that long.
Yeah. I wonder if people are thinking it's longer. I think I assumed too that it was a longer thing that was happening.
Oh, okay.
You know, I wonder, but 15 minutes really isn't that much to, like, you know, depending on the type of job you have. I happen to have the kind of job where I can, you know, I'm not on a line somewhere. I'm at a desk, so I can, you know, mm-hmm. take a quick minute out. But I think I thought it was a much longer thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's only like, we'll just kind of riff for a second about what's been going on this week for a few mm-hmm. minutes, and then we take turns calling. And sometimes it's an even shorter call because depending on how intense things have gotten on a certain issue, we may only call on the one bill that's really like got our attention. Okay. So it'll be 10 minutes, but that, like last week, it was only 10 minutes. And then sometimes we'll each call on the same bill. We tend to kind of do a theme from week to week. So we had like the, you know, healthcare, and then we had immigration, and we had women's health, and we had LGBT rights and trans bathroom rights. And so we tend to do that, but it's not always the case. And we had set up this website, broaddefense.org, and people can track their activism there and enter in their name and their state and who they called and what they said. And that way they can go back and reference a few weeks later and see if that bill that they called on went the way they wanted, and if they want to call and follow up with their representative about it. So I think it's a really valuable thing. And potentially could be really helpful to people who have anxiety and don't like to make calls, because people try and be active by emailing, and that just doesn't have the impact that calling does. Like, it doesn't get tallied the same way, especially if you're just sending an email that's like from a bot. Because I see a lot of people using these websites that send out like form letter emails to their representatives, and it doesn't get noticed the way that a phone call does. There've been people who work in these offices interviewed by more than one publication asking what gets attention, and they all say that emails and form letters are just kind of written off to a degree. Which, whether that's right or wrong, I won't get into, but phone calls are the thing, and closely followed by faxes, weirdly, because nobody does that much anymore. So it's something that I think is really important. And I think that it's getting more important as things start to spiral so wildly out of the realm of what we thought was acceptable as a fucking country, that we start to throw our hands up because we just don't know what the hell else we can do. And I'm definitely reaching that point, and I can feel myself growing a little complacent, because you start to feel like, what's the point of calling about this one little thing when our president is on Twitter threatening people with blackmail, and it's fine. And like, how, but we have to continue doing this. Like, we have to. There's just no choice. If you want to tell yourself that you actually give a shit about the direction that things are going, you have to put forth the minimum effort of making a phone call once a week. Just, you have to, guys. Listen to me. Listen to me. Look at me. Look at me. You have to. Okay? I know it sucks and it's annoying, but sincerely, like, unless we're always up their asses, they will take it as a sign that we don't give a shit and they can just do whatever. And
yeah, they're pretty much showing us that, aren't they?
Yep. This last election was basically them thinking they just got the green light to just be bananas. And they're taking that ball and running with it. They're taking that banana and they're running with it. So now we have to kind of undo that and prove that, no, we are paying attention, actually. We just were asleep for a second, but we're awake now, as she says on Handmaid's Tale. So wake up. Wake up. All right, that's my soapbox for today. Broaddefense.org and facebook.com/broaddefense. I just started doing YouTube Live instead of Crowdcast for all of my live stuff because Crowdcast was fucking me over. So I'm starting a YouTube page specifically for Broad Defense, which I will be sharing on that page also. And you guys can subscribe to it and get notifications. And even if you aren't able to come, you can go and view the video of us for that week. And I'll post links in the bottom so that you can see the bills that we called on and everything. And it'll be great. It'll be super duper. You shut up.
I'm sorry. I just...
What?
The way you... It'll be great. Like, everything is terrible, and this is terrible that we have to do it, but it's going to be great.
It at least gives you a feeling like... Because I'm not going to lie, I live in Texas, man. So I call in knowing full well they're going to ignore what the fuck I have to say. But the thing is that if more people just called in anyway, then all of a sudden we would start to pick up critical mass, because that's what's happening in Texas, is that everybody here assumes that there's no point in doing anything blue because it's a red state. So they throw up their hands. And there were a bunch of people at this Indivisible meeting that I went to that said that they didn't even support Democratic candidates in elections because they felt like their vote was just being thrown away. So they would pick a Republican that they mostly agreed with so that it felt like they were doing anything.
Wow.
Right? I know. So now we finally have a candidate coming up against Ted Cruz who's getting some like real backing and funding. And I think that that's the main thing, is making people feel like it matters at all is the first step to getting people to continue doing something. So it's not like they're just screaming into the abyss.
Right.
And if more people just were like, yeah, maybe it doesn't matter, doing it anyway, I think they'd start to be a little surprised at those offices, at the amount of dissenting phone calls that they would start getting. Because basically all of my representatives can hide behind, it's a red state, we're doing what everybody wants us to do. And there's not a lot of people proving them wrong on that.
Right.
But if we had enough that it at least, even if we still were the minority, it at least felt like a little bit of more of a close call, I think that would make them have to stop and think a bit more, especially since we have this other guy who's coming up against Ted Cruz now, and their reelection is on the line. That's when it starts to really, matter all of a sudden. So, yeah, it'll be great because you'll feel like you are doing the bare minimum. It's like, when you eat a salad and you're like, oh, I'm immortal now. I don't have to do shit all for the rest of the week. Give me that pizza. I ate a fucking salad, bitches. If I go to yoga and have a smoothie afterwards, you cannot say shit to me for the rest of the week. That's it. I have reached my healthy quota. Done. So I think that's the political quota. 1 call a week, and then nobody can say shit to you. You can be like, yeah, I'm an activist.
That to be your fucking tagline.
Well, I'm an activist?
Well, yeah, I made a phone call. You can't say shit to me.
Oh, all right. That's how I'm going to sign off on my phone calls, too. All right, Ted Cruz. Toodaloo, motherfucker.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.